time. Something has got to happen because we can no longer go down the path that we're going down. This country won't last another 6 months. This country won't last another 12 months if something doesn't happen. So it's time to flip the switch. It's time to get involved. It's time to move the line forward. And if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. So I don't care what flip the switch is. I don't care if that means that all of this nonsense is nonsense, or if some of it's true. All right. Welcome, Warriors, World Patriots, and my fellow Americans. My name is Mike. I'm the host of Liberty Warrior. Give me liberty or give me death. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. And we have a special edition Friday night for you guys. We are going to talk about CERN. I've got two of my bros. I got John Esterbrooks and Stephen H. In the waiting room for us tonight. And it's going to be a very informational night. It's going to be pretty crazy. We're going to talk about some Star Wars stuff, to be honest with you. We were having a conversation before the show, and it's just mind-blowing, some of the stuff that Stephen H. knows, a lot of the stuff he's researched, and a lot of stuff that he is going to share with you guys tonight. So buckle up and get ready for an action-packed, fun night right here at LWN. Just want to say thank you so much last night. We had such a huge turnout for the show last night. We had a great time, Tammy and I. Um, it was just a great show. I can't tell you how proud I was to see so many new subscribers, so many views that we got off that show last night, and it's thanks to you guys for sharing that out, for liking it, for subscribing it. And if you guys will hit that like button, it helps the algorithm. And share this out, because tonight is going to be another night where you're going to want to share this out. Facebook showed up big time last night. We probably had over 100 viewers just on Facebook last night, and that was really, really neat. And thank you for all the coffees that you guys bought last night. I still kicked your butt, Tammy, just so you know. I want to say thank you to CV, who just bought coffees as well. The message is great show last night. Really appreciate that. So we got rid of hello, John H. Good to see you in chat. We got rid of the super chats because YouTube takes 30% right off the top. So we did away with super chats. And if you guys want to help donate, help keep the show going, I pinned the link at the top of the chat for you guys. You can buy us a coffee. It's just like super chat. We still honor it just like a super chat here at LWN, but we get to keep 95% of that instead of just 60. So that's why we did away with it. And I really appreciate everything that you guys do for the show and donate. I'm telling you, a lot of great things happening at LWN. Stay tuned. If you are not subscribed, my phone has been blowing up nonstop for the last 4 or 5 days with everything that's happening in our world, and we plan on bringing it to you each and every time we're on air, and let you guys know and keep you abreast of what's going on. We heard that the former Japanese prime minister was unfortunately, it sounds like, taken out, if you want to say that, but there's still a lot of speculation around that. So just a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of Supreme Court things going on in certain states. So keep your ear to the ground. A lot of stuff going on. All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my special guest, and a shout out to Travis. This is the first time that LWN is actually being streamed on TikTok tonight. Travis is sitting at home. He's got the TV screen on. He's got his phone up, and he's streaming us live across TikTok. So everybody that is watching us tonight on TikTok, welcome to LWN. Thank you, Travis, so much for streaming us across TikTok. And if you guys haven't followed us over on TikTok, we are there. So please follow us over there. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on TikTok so we can start doing lives. Thank you, April Dawn, for the coffee. She said, thank you. I needed this community to lift my spirits so much. God bless. Thank you, April Dawn, for that coffee. Appreciate it. All right, let's bring in. I got Stephen H. and John Estabrooks keeps kind of falling out on us, but he'll be back. Stephen, welcome to Facebook, YouTube on LWN. I know you've been with us on Podbean for quite a while, and it's been a pleasure having you over there. But how are you this evening, Stephen? There, brother? We've been having some technical difficulties tonight. These guys have been kind of bouncing in and out, back and forth with their software, and I don't know what's going on. But here's John Estabrooks. We got him as well. How are you doing tonight, John? You there, brother? I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. For some reason, I don't have Steven, but I have you.
Oh, you have me?
Yep, I got you, Steven. There you are.
I got a severe echo going on with your mic or something. There's an echo.
Well, if you got your YouTube on, I would strongly suggest turning your YouTube off. That's usually what causes the backfeed and the echo.
I don't have YouTube on.
Okay. I don't know. We're gonna roll with it though.
Okay.
I got a lot of people donating coffees, and I appreciate the coffees, folks. I'll bring those up at the end of the show so that we can keep this thing going. But thank you so much for all the coffees you guys are sending right now. I'll read those messages at the end of the show. Let's start off tonight talking about CERN. Obviously, Big Bang Theory. Is it reality? Stephen, you've got a lot to share. I'm going to let John go first and maybe kind of just lay the groundwork a little bit for us. And then I'd really like to turn it over to Stephen and let him describe to us what CERN is and some of the things behind it. Go ahead, John. I don't have any volume on you, brother. Can't hear you, brother. Can't hear you. We're having all kinds of fun tonight. Technical difficulties. Well, I'll go with Stephen first. Go ahead.
Okay,
Steven.
now I can hear you good.
All right, go ahead and let's start off with what CERN is, Stephen.
Okay, CERN, Large Hadron Collider. It's in Europe. It kind of crosses a few countries. And what it is a particle accelerator. Is basically what they do is they take micron-sized particles and they accelerate them by inducing a magnetic field, and it goes in a circle. And then there's another one, Hadron Collider, that eventually makes the two particles hit. And so what they're trying to discover with CERN is basically like the Big Bang, if you ever heard of the Big Bang. And they're researching all kinds of things. The last time they turned it on, it was the Higgs boson. But that's what CERN is. It's a large, and it creates this large electromagnetic field. But that's what they're using to accelerate these particles. Okay, what you want to talk about next?
Okay, so I know that a lot of people, you're probably wondering, what is it that Stephen is talking about? Well, it's a machine that can split atoms. It could do several amazing things. So I guess my first question to you, Stephen, is how many of these type of CERN weapons, CERN machines, whatever you want to call them,
particle accelerator.
Particle accelerators. How many of them are here in America, around the world?
The total amount of particle accelerators on Earth is around 30,000. So many of them are very small, and they're just used for medical research and whatnot. On the larger variety, you're probably talking about the type of CERN. CERN is being the largest. You're probably talking about 30 to 50, and they range anywhere from South Africa, South America. In the United States, there's probably large ones there. I don't know. There's 10 or 12 here, and different continents all over circling the globe. So that's something that they have, and there's many powerful ones. And then and what people don't realize is that a lot of these are running simultaneously that you're not hearing on the news at the same time CERN is.
Okay, and how much research have you done on this, Stephen?
Since 2014, quite a bit. Then I stopped for a while on it, and then in the last 2 weeks, a lot. And then I've got verifiable facts on experiments they've done. Even DARPA's involved in it, and different things are involved in experiments they've done that they've been successful. And next.
Well, let me go to John Estabrooks because he had brought something to my attention earlier in the conversation. John, we talked about what kind of energy these things consume. You want to go into a little bit of that?
Yeah, well, at the crank up of this time, they doubled the amount of energy, then over double the amount. The last time they were around 500
tera electron volts.
They listen to old brother Stephen, and that's exactly what it is. But now when they ramp this up, I watched the ramp up process and the startup process, and it was a couple hours to get it up to the energy level that they wanted it at, and then to smooth out the beams. And they're actually pinching the beams inside of the magnetic field to a smaller size. And to get that to happen, they were at 13.8. So if you look at 1.3 would power 3,000 homes, so now when you're at 13.8 and you do that math, well, then you're up around, you could energize 4 million homes, and wow. That's just an average 1,500. Go ahead, Steve.
I want to say one thing that for people to understand, because there was a lot of lawsuits and whatnot to try to stop this. And the reason it has failed because CERN is its own sovereign nation, basically, is the way to put it. And so you can't do it. And they have their own energy supply and whatnot. So that was just an interesting fact that I thought people should know.
Didn't you say they use a nuclear reactor, Stephen?
Huh?
Didn't you say they have their own nuclear energy?
They have their own nuclear reactor power, and I think they have a hydroelectric dam.
Okay.
Let me ask you two gentlemen this question. I asked it behind in the waiting room, but I want to ask it again. Could all the energy draw of them using these type of machines cause rolling blackouts in California or Europe or around the world? Is that potentially a cause of some of the rolling blackouts that we've seen?
They just had a case in Illinois to where they fired up one at a university. And when they did, it caused a power surge and a power outage just for a few minutes. And then the power came back on because they recognized what they'd done. So, yes, they could. But now, with CERN having its own energy, with nothing else connected to it, I don't think that that's a possibility there. But, and it could, Mike, because the sheer number of them, if they were to activate all of them at one time, there's no telling what would actually happen. And even the smaller units, and they're dealing with neutrons, protons, and different particles that they want to collide. And they don't necessarily. This one right here is down to such a micron size that it's not visible to the naked eye. You wouldn't be able to see it. And that was one of the things in the smoothing out of the beams. That was part of the required extra boost in energy above what they initially said they were going to take it to smooth it out and tighten up and make the beam the particle size that they wanted to collide. They had to increase the energy to 13.8. So, and then the results, the collection of dark matter, when most scientists I guess they might offer you a description of what dark matter is, but I don't think they actually know. And that's the part of it that Stephen can expand on.
Well, let me ask this question because everybody's asking in chat. So let's just get one of the big questions out of the way. Do you believe that CERN is operated now by the black hats or the white hats?
Well, we better pray it's the white hats.
Stephen, you have an opinion?
Did he just leave us?
He might have left us there for a minute. I don't know. Everybody keeps coming in and out.
Well, I think Stephen's like me, Mike. We don't know. I mean, in the reality of what I watched the other night and Alice, and they communicated with all the 4 collections of data sites that are now getting data from CERN. And I didn't see any black hat operatives. These are scientists. These are geeks. I mean, of the highest order. They were giddy with what they're doing. But in the reality is, they're going to collide these beams, these really tight beams, small beams with all this energy and using this huge magnetic force. Well, they're going to collect particles that they hope that they're going to collect particles that are non-existent and man has no knowledge of. And the last time they did it, and I forget the name of it, Stephen knows the name of the one they collected and what they have found from it. But in the not knowing is the scary part for me, because everybody, I hope everybody has a knowledge of the Big Bang Theory, and that everything in this existence and the creation of our planet, ourselves. And the Big Bang theory says that everything came from a single infinite particle of energy. And if that energy, you equate it biblically, and we say that our God is an infinite being of energy and light, and the purest energy and light, well then, okay, and if his breath was the creation and he spoke the word to create light, from darkness, from total darkness, well, then, it ties together. And that was in our last part of the conversation we had offline, anyone that knows who Stephen Hawking is, and if you don't know who he is, he was probably the greatest mind to ever live, I hold. And for the longest portion of his life, he was a devout atheist and believed everything could be proven through science, and that there was no God.
Yep.
And
Let me pause you for just a second, John. Listen. Okay. Steven's here. John Estabrooks is here. I sent out a link. The man has answered the call. It's somebody that we've missed dearly. He's in the waiting room. It's been a long time since we've heard from this guy. So let me bring John H. into the conversation. Welcome back, John H. How are you doing, brother?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, it's like magic, only faster.
Man, it's good to hear your voice.
It has been a while.
I'm sure you've been a busy man.
There has been a lot of goings on.
Well, I'm glad to bring you into the conversation, because I'm sure you have very good input to bring to the conversation with Stephen as well. Stephen is a wealth of knowledge, and so is John Estabrooks. But I'll give you a couple of minutes here to just maybe catch up with us. Go ahead, John.
Well, I have relocated. That's the big thing. Do you know how hard it is to buy a house and sell 5 houses at the same time?
Can only imagine.
That's probably a challenge I wouldn't want to undertake.
Well, I succeeded. So, but anyway, yeah, we've had some issues in the family, and we've had to relocate, and we pretty much uprooted our entire lives and moved back to help take care of some family members. So, anyway, I'm no longer in the Kansas City area. I have moved to the reddest state in the U.S.
Florida?
Nope.
Texas?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is the reddest state in the U.S.
Yep, Oklahoma.
No, that's my old stomping grounds, Oklahoma. I went to high school in Midwest City, Oklahoma.
Yeah. I grew up in Duncan.
Oh, okay. Oh, Halliburton boy.
No, I never did. I never did get to work for Halliburton, but I outgrew Halliburton pretty quick. So,
all right, good
anyway,
deal.
It's been a rough few months, but if my computer holds out, it's been crashing about every 45 minutes. But if it holds out, I'll be able to talk for a few.
Well, we'd like to hear your opinion or your knowledge on CERN.
Well, I'm not real familiar with CERN. I mean, I haven't done a lot of research in it. What I did do a lot of research in was the superconducting super collider, which was being constructed in Waxahachie, Texas, back in the 80s and early 90s. I actually got a job working there, helping with the assembly, but it was canceled by the Clinton administration before I showed up to work. So I have been inside of that facility, and if you want to talk about a massive facility that you cannot see from the sky, it is truly massive.
And you're talking underground.
It is a 53-mile diameter ring underground. It's a tunnel. And inside that tunnel, I believe the tunnel itself is 160 feet in diameter. And it makes a ring around Waxahachie, Texas. That's 53 miles in diameter. Now, of course, in true government fashion, they spent millions and millions of dollars digging the tunnel. They bought all the computers. They bought all of the equipment to build it. and they killed funding for it and before they actually assembled it. So it literally sat in a field and was eat up by the elements. But there's only, I think there's 5 places you can go into the superconducting super collider, and they're just little buildings that sit out in the field. But anyway, what I did look up on CERN, we were talking about the energy consumption. I don't know what its peak energy usage is, but the Large Hadron Collider uses 1.3 terawatt hours of energy a year. But that's an average usage. Being that it has been down for months, it's probably capable of some pretty high. Well, its design was it was going to be the highest energy collider ever built, and if I remember right, it's 10 times. It's got 10 times the energy output as the second largest. But anyway,
Stephen H. I'd like to, Stephen, what was the one that you said was over? Was it the one in Europe that you said had, was it 10 times the pull of the Earth's gravity? We lose Stephen?
That dog, he's not there. I think that was pretty close, Mike. It's it's awesome. I mean, and it's mind-boggling the size of that son of a gun. But their ring is only like 17 miles, so I can't imagine what John's talking about and why anybody would even, what was the mission of that, and how big of a magnetic pull would that have created?
Are you back there, Stephen? He keeps coming in and out. Anyway, I think Stephen was telling us the biggest one in the world, I think it's over in Europe, has about 10 times the pull of the Earth's gravity. And that's a pretty strong pull, which we were going to get into some of the things that can cause. So the first one.
Well, that is CERN.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's CERN is the one thing that I want to just to kind of put things in perspective on the kind of forces that they're producing with this.
We can hear you, Stephen. We can hear you. Go ahead, John.
If you look at smashing molecules or atoms, one thing it takes a lot of force to do that. But when you're talking about smashing subatomic particles like electrons, and that's essentially what they're doing, it takes 9,605 tons of force to touch 2 electrons together. That's to touch them together. Okay, that's what
we're talking about smashing them.
You're talking about destroying them and making things that they hold together shatter like glass.
So, John, let me ask you this question: do you believe that? Do you think that maybe the CERN machine is what took out the Georgia Guidestones? Because I asked Stephen H. What he thought about it, and he gave us his opinion on that. What's your thoughts on the Georgia Guidestones?
I don't want to speculate too much on that because I'm still analyzing some of the footage. My initial analysis of the person running to the Guidestones. I haven't got definitive measurement on the video that person was running, but I calculated that he was running 22 miles an hour in my first.
Really?
Yeah. So that's twice as fast as Jesse Owens. So the next thing I would, if you watch the videos of the quote explosion, watch the lights. Get the video in single frame through it and watch the lights around the facility whenever the explosion happens. They get very bright. If that was a conventional explosion, it probably wouldn't do that. I can't think of a reason why it would.
Mic check.
Yeah, we can hear you, Stephen. We were just asking the question about the Georgia Guidestones. You want to give us your thoughts on that, Stephen? Because you were telling me backstage what you thought about it. Go ahead.
Uh, well, when you look at the video up close and you see the flash in the distance, especially in slow motion, if you know anything about percussion, like a cannon or whatever, it could be a homemade type, whatever. You'll see the dust pull up from the ground next to the trees, but not connected to the dust that comes out of the impact zone. And you'll see the rocks fly forward towards the camera view, which is telling me that's a percussion instrument that shot something through the Georgia Guidestones, and that's what you see, the displacement of the air pull the dust off the ground, and that's not connected to the explosion of the Georgia Guidestone. So that's my view. I think just somebody, it wouldn't have took much just to do that. Anybody could do that.
So you don't think it would have been any type of kinetic energy, huh?
No, at first place, not the angle that if you see the way the stuff come out of it, not at that angle. Now they could have one that's a ground based one, easy, sure, but what the telltale sign is that dust signature coming from the ground, coming up from the ground next to where that light was in the distance, that which is just the light that's focused on, and the dust that just all of a sudden comes up, not connected to the explosion. And they could, and sure, I'm sure that's probably on the web, that camera view, so they could back up next to that light. Then they probably practiced it before to make sure they wouldn't be on video, because of the reflection of the light, the camera wouldn't pick them up. Anybody could have done that, and it needed to be done. I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but it needed to be done.
Yeah, I think we're
Send a
probably
message.
all in agreement on that.
Yeah, I think there's several
Well, 'cause then-
monuments around the world that needs to come down, right, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Well-
One thing to keep in mind is that the guidestones, the vertical parts of those guidestones, are supposedly 19-inch thick granite.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever hit that, I mean, it would have to be a pretty high velocity round, whatever.
Yeah. Like I was
'Cause
telling John, I could make one out of a piece of drill stem, no problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering though if, how much energy it would take to put behind a projectile and knock a hole in a 19-inch thick piece of granite.
Well, you make basically you think of a tank bullet, and then you like they do what they used to do with the Mighty Mo and stuff, the big battleships. They just put a large charge of dynamite behind it, compacted dynamite, and that's it. I can load it up in the back of I could put it in a school bus and back it up there the length of the school bus. It's not like you're having to aim very good. You're hitting a piece of granite that's so many feet tall and so many feet wide. So all you got to do is line it up with. You ain't got to do nothing. But this is not an ingenious thing that you have to do. Yeah, we do stuff like that when I was little, growing up over here. We blow stuff up all the time.
The video that they showed of the person running up there, I don't. Like I said, I haven't fully analyzed that video, but I think that video is fake because
and John H., that's the first thing that I told several people. You can get ready for the narrative that they're going to want to peddle on it, because so you've got that video, you've got the video of the gray sedan, and then you got the video of the impact. But what they're going to piece together a narrative for us to believe that it was someone radical right or whatever. They're going to, but the fact of the matter is if you had all of that, why wouldn't you release it the morning of? Why did it take?
Why did you tear them down?
And that's the one thing too. The man running. Where's the time stamp? When was that video taken?
He was moving very fast.
Yeah, John, one of the Johns, can you clarify the man running? There was a question in chat. Can you clarify the man running?
It's just a video loop that they played, Mike, and I saw it on Rumble, and I don't know who posted it there. I don't remember, but and it might have come from somebody on Telegram,
Well,
but it didn't matter. You could see him. It's the guide stones, and they're there, and then you see him running into the light, and you see him run up and place what appeared to be maybe something the size of a duffel bag at the base of that stone, and then they just keep playing the same loop. The guy running up there.
Let's talk about that. Okay, he placed it at the base of the stone because there's no way to hang it, obviously. Remember, analyze the video. Where did the stuff come out? It come out about midway up, maybe 6 feet up or so.
Yeah,
if he was at the base, it would not have done that. Okay,
I agree,
and it's 18
Stephen.
inches thick. If you had a large enough anything to blow that one particular one out, so you would see explosion in every direction, and still it would have to be some kind of thermite deal that was stuck on there. Maybe like that you could do it.
But then listen to why I'm going to blow the video up. I'm going to tell you why. If you place a charge at the base of something and it's big enough to destroy that massive amount of concrete that high up, where was the crater in the hole from the blast? None. Zero.
Exactly.
None.
That's a video of somebody vandalizing from before, because they've already went over there with spray paint and vandalized, and they caught it on the camera. That's all that is, from another time that somebody went over there and sprayed some paint on it, and they just using it.
Yeah. What do you think there, John H.?
Yeah, so the way that one stone blew out, that almost certainly looks like it was hit with a projectile. I mean, even if you went and stuck something on the side of it and in the right location, the vast majority of the explosive force is going to be blown out to the vacant side of the charge.
Exactly.
There's nothing there holding. I mean, it's like a bullet. If you have a bullet hanging in midair and you ignite it, what's going to move faster? Well, a lot of people, because of the way people just think of bullets, they go, well, the projectile part's going to move faster. But that's not what happens. If you ignite a bullet in midair, the casing is going to fly away extremely fast, and the bullet's going to move a few feet because it's got a higher mass. The reason bullets fly fast out of a gun is because the gun's mass is holding that casing still, and all of the force between the casing and the bullet is now being applied to the bullet. The force is equal, but now you have a gun and a human holding that gun. That's how the bullet gets its velocity.
Let me ask this question to the panel: what about the rods of God?
No. That leaves a very distinct footprint, Mike. You'd be able to see that in the video. You would be able to see
angle.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I also think there would be significantly more damage than what was done.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right, fair enough. Here's the next question that I have for the panel. I'll start with Stephen H. first. We just barely brushed on it, but I'd like to get the opinion of all you three panelists. We talked about Stephen Hawkins, and I want to be clear to the audience, to the listeners tonight. Stephen Hawkins was a brilliant mind. Yes. He was a devout atheist for a very long time. And I'd like to hear what the panel has to say about what they know about Stephen Hawkins. I know John Estabrooks has quite a bit to say. So I'm gonna go to Stephen H. and then John H. and then back to John Estabrooks. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I need to, before I say something on that, because I got cut off a while ago, I want to address the blackout issue first, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
On the blackout issue, everyone that's listening, go and look up Operation Fishbowl HD 1962. And basically what it was a nuclear bomb that they detonated in space. And it basically made an EMP that followed the curvature of the electromagnetic fields. They were out there in the Midway Islands, way out there, and it knocked out all the electricity in Hawaii and I think some in California and whatnot. And supposedly they're supposed to be able to control this, the amount of electromagnetic field in CERN is supposed to be confined into the beam. But the last time they did this, they melted the magnets. Okay, the magnets got messed up, so that there was a loss of confinement. So you could have some blackouts on Stephen Hawking's. Yeah, everything I read was at the end. He told them, "Do not do this with CERN. Do not do this, because you could destroy." He said you could destroy the universe. But he seemed to connect science with God before he passed away. Is the drift that I got on the whole thing, that which a lot of people do. And if you really get into it, it really does do that.
All right, thanks for that, Stephen H. What's the operation or that video that you told chat to find?
Operation HD Fishbowl. It's a 1962 experiment, Operation HD Fishbowl, or just look up Operation Fishbowl.
Operation Fishbowl. You guys can check that out on YouTube. Operation Fishbowl.
And they got many. There's other in this Atomic Historical Channel and all that. They got many. There's a lot of interesting stuff on there, which will help explain a lot of the things on electromagnetism and things that they can do.
All right, John H. Do you know anything about Stephen Hawkins and what we're referring to him being a devout atheist until the very end?
Well, I've heard different things, but I can assure you, I don't know if it happened before he died, but I bet he's not an atheist right now.
No, and he did have, and Stephen's spot on. He cautioned people about the experimentation with energy and particles attempting to find and duplicate the Big Bang. And because he had come, and I'm going to tell you, it was driven by what his knowledge was of the human DNA and our DNA structure, that and the fact that the God gene was ever present in every living human being. And that shifted his entire thinking, that the only way that humanity was created was through an infinite being. And that's why he told them, look, stop looking for this infinite energy. And in the collision of this real tight, highly energized particles colliding against each other, and with their they openly state that they're looking to collect dark matter. And then when you say, well, okay, explain to a dummy like me, what is dark matter? And they don't know themselves what they're going to find. They're very open and clear about that. You know, what particle will they next discover? Stephen, what was the particle that they did in the 500 whatever? The
boson.
last. Yeah, and give us some insight on that. Give us some insight on that, Stephen.
Okay, the Higgs boson, and they were exploring. They had a theory about the Higgs boson and the Higgs field. You actually hear that being talked about on Star Trek back in the 80s and 90s. It's a real thing, and it has to do. It's a complicated subject, but it has to do a lot with dark matter, which is supposed to surround everything that we see, which is matter, which is what I call light matter in our, that we can perceive in our existence. And their mission is, if you want me to expand into that, their mission is they want to go in and open up. It's not really the right word, dimension is not really the right word, but another level of existence. And they want to retrieve some of this dark matter. They basically want to crack open space and time. Hey, let me explain to the people and let John H. Make sure I'm on the right track with that. So I want to explain to people what dimensions are, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, think of a flat piece of paper. Actually, think of just a dot. That's the first dimension. It has no length, width, height. The second dimension, think of a flat piece of paper, has length and width. The third dimension is basically a cube. You got length, width, and depth. And the fourth dimension, which is what we're in, is length, width, depth, and time. Okay, and then there's supposed to be a from 0 to 11 dimensions, and our brain actually works in 11 dimensions. All right, we just can't access all of that. And if you're in a lower dimension, you can't perceive a higher dimension. If you're in a higher dimension, you can perceive anything lower than the dimension that you're in. Okay, and all of this does tie, believe it or not, all of this does tie into science and the spiritual side of yourself. It's my thought that we already exist in all dimensions. The higher dimension, the closer you are to God, because you're part of God. But in the reality that our brains are able to perceive, we are in the fourth dimension. That's where we at. We will ascend to a higher dimension at some point. Maybe when you die, that's where you go. And of course, you have some residual effects of the dimensions that and that's why people have deja vu and whatnot, of the dimensions that persisted before you, and even you can have some residual effects if you had previously was in a higher dimension and moved down to a lower dimension, and it kind of explains the thing of heaven and hell, you know.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you know, let's break that down too, Stephen, because a lot of what we've been sharing in our podcast about the control mechanism that they're using right now through injection, but then also, you know, Mike, we've covered in the last few weeks on there the scaffolding, the building up, and everything is about attachment and to the brain. You know, our neural pathways. If they can complete a circuitry to your brain and your neural pathways, and who's to say that everything that we've witnessed in our lifetimes, the additives in our food, and all of the things that diminish our attachment, our pineal gland, and if you look up that in the calcification of that pineal gland, it limits your ability to ascend and connect with God. And that's what they're attempting to do now. And we've verified that. This is proven. They have gone in now through injection and certain injections to where they've actually used CRISPR to go in and attach in your cells and make a cellular attachment. Well, if that attachment to your cellular makeup and into your DNA silences the presence of the God gene,
The VMAT2 gene.
the VMAT2 gene. Listen to Brother Stephen. That boy knows some. That boy
Yeah,
knows
he
some
does.
stuff.
Yeah, he does.
So it all ties
silences,
in.
it can't erase it, but it silences the VMAT2 gene, which is another word for the God gene.
What do you think about that, John H?
You there,
Sorry,
John?
I had to step away. Our Vegas data center's having issues. Anyway, so I missed all the conversation.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
I want to bring something up that I found very interesting. So let's talk about some Star Trek stuff. I know some of the people in chat are like, man, this is way out of my league. This is some very interesting stuff. So listen to this part, okay? And then I'm going to talk about climate change toward the end of the show. So just stick with us. I know some of this might be a little heavy. Go grab you a drink or something and come right back, because you're going to want to hear the climate change stuff here at the very end. I want Stephen H. To explain to the audience, because I found it fascinating when he said that they can take this machine, go in and tear the fabric of space.
They want to make a rift in the fabric of space and time,
and then extract things out of it. But then where I'm going with this, and so stick with me, folks, where I'm going with this, he talks about folding time. And then I have a question for him after he explains this. Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. I'll listen to one of their scientists even talk about it. So in other words, that's why I explained about the dimensions. because we can't perceive the dark matter. That's why they've been searching for, because we're in the fourth dimension, and they want to make a rift in this dimension and use a light beam to extract antimatter. Which in antimatter, if you think of a matter, you think of a proton and a neutron. The electrons go in, let's just say, a clockwise motion around it, the electrons. Antimatter is the reverse of that. The electrons go into a reverse rotation around it. It's really that simple. And now, do they know what the effects of that'll be? I don't think they do.
No.
Now, do you want me to go into the folding of? These are all theories, not just theories. They've did experiments and stuff to prove a lot of this stuff. It gets into quantum mechanics, which breaks down all the laws of physics that we know of. It's different, but it can be proven by math. Like two particles, a particle can exist in two places at the same time in the quantum realm. So basically, what that's proven is that you have multiverses. So it's a proven fact, and that's where the space-time warping of space-time. Okay, warping of space-time, folding of space. So if you have a large, well, let me put it to you this way: they know right now that light, when they look at a faraway galaxy or sun, it has a lensing effect, and the light that's supposed to travel in a straight line, they can tell that it curvatures around space and time bend. Okay, so that's proven in Einstein's theory and everything else, that you can fold space. Okay, and they're thinking that time is actually connected to gravity now. So to fold space and time, you need a large enough electromagnetic field. If you create a large enough one, just like you see in all these sci-fi movies where you see a spaceship, he's there, and all of a sudden he's gone, instant. Well, the way that works is he's folding space-time, and so how he does that is he creates a large enough electromagnetic field, induction field, in that spaceship, and then what happens is it creates a bubble around that ship. Okay, and so the ship is actually not moving. The space and time is moving around the ship. Now, to accomplish this, what he does is closes the space behind him faster than the space ahead of him is opening, which propels him. He's basically being pulled through, versus like what we do, where we have a rocket engine that puts thrust out the back and pushes something. That's why they're able to move, but he's unaffected by any gravitational forces. G forces was what you called it, like an aircraft pilot is. He doesn't feel any of that. He could go through water just like he could go through anything. It doesn't matter. He's pulling space and time. One of the theories that I'm looking at, which is actually possible, is that if you get enough large hadron colliders and project a large enough electromagnetic field, and this ties into dimensions, and this is going to be over a lot of people's head, but they could actually fold space and time is proportional to the amount of energy you can produce, and you can actually move through space and through time, forwards or backwards. Now, why would they want to do that? If you move backwards and then reset, and you're not in a Faraday protected environment or a Faraday cage like Tesla had, think Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day. He remembered everything. He kept getting pulled in the past, and then it would go on. So what happens when you get pulled into the past? You don't stop. The timeline that you were on continues, but you're moving back, and then you go off on a tangent timeline, and that's where you get into multiverse and everything else. This is very complicated. I'm trying to explain it in the simplest terms that I can. But it's actually mathematically possible to do that if you have the right equipment. Now, why would they want to do that? In my view, what makes you think that that's how they hadn't accumulated all the knowledge, money, and power? So they just keep doing it. I'm of the conclusion that they'd already did it in 2012. And so they pulled back and went on a new tangent. and then they know pretty much how everything's going to. Each time you go, it doesn't play out the same because you doing things differently, but they know pretty much if they do this how it's going to turn out up to a certain point, and they keep running into a bottleneck, and the bottleneck is God ain't gonna let them go past a certain point. That's what I think, and they just keep on trying, do it as many times as you want, doesn't matter. You
Okay.
have to think in time.
Okay, I gotta ask. Here comes the questions,
Oh, yeah.
plural. Okay, so I want to ask Stephen H. I want to ask John Estabrooks, and I want to ask John H. Okay, so folding time and time travel and being able to go through different dimensions, extract information, and bring it back. There is a letter of the alphabet.
Yeah.
And they talk about future proves past. We've even watched it on a simple cartoon like Simpsons, where they put a cartoon out 17 years later. Exactly what they put out happens, and I find it fascinating. So the question to the panel is, do you guys believe in future proves past? And with that question, here's the Trump question. There is a book out there, and I know a lot of people know about it. It was written in the 1800s, and it talked about time travel, and it talked about a guy by the name of Trump, and what's his son's name? Baron Trump. And there's so many similarities in this book that was written in the late 1800s. I'm just going to open it up to the panel. You guys let me know. What do you think about future proves past and the time travel book that has Trump's name in it?
Yep, you got it. I just explained it to you.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, because in 2017, when I received my first post from the letter, and I was asked to attempt to decipher it, and I said, well, you better find somebody else because I can't decipher my own name. But at any rate, I started to follow it. I even made a couple trips to 4chan and would look at the post, and then I skipped away from that because there's a lot of evil in those dark channels. And then when it went to 8chan, did the same thing and kept up with it. But for things to be told to us in 2017 that we're witnessing today in those posts, how is that possible unless you had availability to a time portal? There's no explanation for it, folks. You know, this guy, and I shared this with Mike and Stephen. Mr. T, is referred to as a genius. Well, if I had the availability to see into the future, and I could make conversation come back, and in this time share with you what would happen in the future, you would hold, man, that John, he's a freaking genius. And I'm not a genius, but if I had access to that technology, could I give the appearance of being some kind of, man, how did this guy know? Think about in the last cycle, in the debates and everything that he said that Joey Dimes would do. And now Joey Dimes has done exactly what he said he was going to do. How did he have that knowledge? Ask yourself that. I do every day.
What do you think, John H.?
Well, so I've thought about this a lot since I was a little kid, and there's this one question I have. If man ever develops time travel, why hasn't someone come back and stopped atrocities?
I can answer that.
I can make a simple statement right now that says at 8 p.m. on 7/8 of 2022, I'm going to come back and talk to myself.
I can answer that. The reason that you can't do it, and I can send you a video that explains it, is because when you move back in time, the second that you start moving forward in time, you're not on the same tangent, on the same timeline. Okay, now I'm gonna explain that. Let's say today I marry my wife. It's my wedding day. I go through 20 years. Then I get in time travel and I come back to that same point in time. Now I'm on a new timeline. I'll marry someone else. In that particular timeline, I go out 20 years. And they do it with calculations and physics. You cannot cross over to meet yourself in the other timeline and meet your previous wife. You actually have to go back in time and experience the timeline, the other timeline, out 20 years. Each time you move back in time, you create another time bubble. You're on a different timeline. So it's not possible to go back. And I think that's probably something God put in there to do, so you don't have paradoxes like you're talking about. Like you could go and kill your own grandfather and you never be born, which creates a paradox, so you could never go back in time. But see, that's the rub. So if you follow what I'm trying to say is, it's not possible to create a paradox in time, because the second you start going forward in time, you're on a different timeline. That other timeline that you were on before, it still exists. It's still going. That John and that and everyone is still on that timeline. And Mike and them, they're all still doing their same thing. But if you're in a Faraday cage or a Faraday protected facility, the knowledge is retained of what you experienced in the other one, but you still can't go back there. You follow that line of thinking, what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So one of the things I wanted to point out about the Large Hadron Collider, so the theory of relativity essentially says that ultimately everything is energy. All matter, everything is energy, or can be converted to energy. So when they're able to release these huge amounts of energy, that gives them technically and scientifically in control of more things, right? The Large Hadron Collider is dealing, normal particle accelerators and atom smashers, or whatever you want to call them. They're dealing with very fundamental particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons. The Large Hadron Collider is dealing with something on a different dimension. It's dealing with particles that we didn't know existed, quarks and Higgs boson. Higgs boson was a totally theoretical particle. They were seeing effects from atom smashers and they couldn't explain them, and research and math was done, and they said there has to be a particle here doing this, and they proved, they know what it mathematically, what it was, completely theoretical, but they knew exactly what it looked like, how it reacted. The problem was finding it and proving it. But essentially what they're doing is they're going another dimension. I mean, there's discussions of experiments of hey, the electron and proton and neutron are not the smallest particle. They're made up of even smaller particles. Yeah. And so, that's the kind of research you're doing. Well, they're getting to a level where, smashing an atom of uranium and don't.
Jeez.
Uranium has a lot of energy in it, but the reason we use it for energy is because it's very unstable. The larger the atom gets, the easier it is to smash. So these uranium and plutonium, they're very large atoms. When they're talking about smashing things like hydrogen atoms, you're talking about a lot more energy to do that because they're very stable. But they're talking about smashing the atoms in the protons and neutrons as the atom comes apart. I mean, you're talking about basically assembling the ability to set off a nuclear explosion, and then all of those atoms get ripped apart. And as they get ripped apart, the electrons and protons and neutrons also have a reaction. So they're talking about the potential of making a, not that they're doing this, they may be, but you're talking about making a nuclear explosion that is millions of times larger than anything we have.
That's dangerous.
Well,
or a black hole.
Yeah, or a black hole. That is crazy. I need to address the chat real quick because they're asking about the book. So the book, it was written in 1890 is the first time the edition came out, if I'm correct. And the title of the book is the Baron Trump Collection. It's the travel adventures of Little Baron Trump, the marvelous underground journey, the last president. So there's a collection of the books. But so here's what I'm going to say about the books, and then I want to move on to the next question, which is global warming. What I find fascinating about the book is it was written in 1890, but it has some characters in there that I think you guys would find very, very familiar. And so I just found that book very fascinating. If you guys want to check it out, it's Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. You can find it on Amazon. I'm sure it's on all the bookstores. But anyway, that's where I found it, was on Amazon. I want to ask Stephen H. to explain the magnetic pull and the energy of the magnetic pull, because you said something to me that was, one, concerning in the waiting room, and two, makes a lot of sense on what's going on with our climate, which is the North and the South Pole. Can you go into detail and kind of explain how that's happening and how that may be linked to the climate change?
I'm not so sure exactly how it's linked to the climate change, but it could be linked to CERN. If you study the history of the magnetic poles, north and south, move on a yearly basis. Okay, when I mean the magnetic north position is not in the same place. That's why every once in a while they have to reset the GPS. Okay, your global positioning system, and they just did it. But over the since about 2012, it would move a mile or two every year, but now it's moving 50 miles, and it's increasing in speed, and it's exponential. And when you look at the direction of the two north and south magnetic poles, they're both heading in the direction of CERN or Central Africa, which is, I don't know where they're going to meet up, but they're both moving in from where they are towards that direction. Increasingly. Now, does this tie in with CERN's magnetic crap that they're doing with it? I don't know, but on the climate change, on global warming in particular, I can shoot that down in about 2 seconds. They did an ice core, and you can look it up. Scientific study on ice cores that go back 600,000 years, and from Greenland, and they get the oxygen, and they can tell what the global temperature was at that time. If we're the major problem with global warming, why was the temperature during the Roman period so much higher, the global temperature, than it is now? They're worried about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. When they had like 3 or 4. Was there any cars? Did Romans drive around in cars? Were they burning fossil fuels? What's the deal? So the global temperature is governed by the sun. There's short cycles, a solar maximum, a solar minimum. Every 11 years we go through a cycle, and then there's major cycles that are much longer. It has to do with, I'm trying to think of the word, the position of the solar system and other things, amongst other things. And it gets kind of complicated, but that pretty much shoots their global warming story out. When they can explain that to me, then I'll listen.
I have several comments to make on global warming. Number one, I used to calibrate temperature standards for an organization called NIST. I worked in a research lab, and I had to calibrate temperature standards so that when we measured temperatures, they were accurate to 1 degree Fahrenheit. The reason that we were limited to 1 degree Fahrenheit is because in today's society and today's technology, we have nothing that is more accurate than that. There is no temperature standard on the planet Earth that anybody owns that is more accurate than 1 degree Fahrenheit, except for at very specific calibration points, which are called law mandate points. So, for instance, if I go to calibrate something that measures room temperature, the law mandate point for room temperature is the freezing point of water and the boiling point of water. At those 2 points, I can be assured that that temperature standard is accurate, 100% accurate, dead on. Well, there's always a plus and minus, but you can get it much more accurate than 1 degree Fahrenheit. Once you get any distance off of that mandate point, you cannot be sure that your temperature standard is linear. Okay, you can't be sure. So the only way to be sure is to have another mandate point that's near what you're trying to measure. Unfortunately, there's not many of those mandate points. Calibrating a temperature standard to the freezing point of water is incredibly difficult. It's something that if you haven't done it, you can't imagine how difficult it is. So, it comes into these questions like, okay, well, what kind of water do you use? Well, do you use your tap water? Well, no, you can't use your tap water because your tap water's got minerals in it that changes its freezing point. You have to use and I'm not making this up, there is an area of the ocean.
I remember you telling us this. Yep.
That you have to get a sample of seawater from. And that is what you use to calibrate temperature standards.
That's crazy.
That is, yeah. So, but even after you go through all this, you can't be sure at, you can calibrate at 32 Fahrenheit and 212 Fahrenheit, but at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, you can't be sure you're still dead on. You have no idea of what that is. You're trusting the linearity of the device you're using. Okay. It takes days to calibrate a temperature standard. Okay. Now, the other thing is that once you calibrate a temperature standard, you have a plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit is pretty typical for scientific measurements. What that means is if I measure a temperature and it's 100 degrees, and tomorrow I measure a temperature and it's 105 degrees, and I average those two together, what's the average temperature? Well, everybody's going to say 100.
102 and a half. I don't know.
Right. Well, that's what everybody thinks. However, that's not true because the 100 degree temperature is it's somewhere between 99 and 101. Right? Because I've got a plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit variance. So what you have to do is you have to take 99 degrees and 104 degrees and you average those. And then you take 101 degrees and 106 degrees and you average those. And the average is somewhere in between those two numbers. Okay, you can't be sure of any of this. So now what these guys are trying to do, and it's the same thing, it's called significant figures. You can't measure something accurate to, let's say I'm measuring a football field and I've got a ruler that is accurate to 1 inch. Well, I can't measure that football field more accurate than 1 inch. I can't say that football field is 0.5 inches long. Therefore, when I do calculations with that, I have to get rid of those partial inches because my measurement is not that accurate. Okay, so whenever they go back 10,000 years and measure the growth ring of trees with a ruler or whatever they do it with, and they say that they can predict what the temperature was accurate to a half a degree, I can call BS on that because they can't do that right now. They can't measure our ambient temperature right now that accurately. They certainly can't do it after the trees' rings have changed in size because of of humidity changes, and then it petrifies, and then they measure it. The ruler would have to be accurate to 0.0, 0.25 millimeters. It's just junk science. The other thing is the whole tree ring measurement and all that. That's never been used before. It hasn't been through any scientific scrutiny. They have They have nothing but a made-up theory that they made up so that they could make up these temperatures from 10,000 years ago. It's junk science. And the final point on global warming, and I bring this up, and I know you probably know the answer to this by now, but how many scientific global warming studies has there been done?
So there's several of them. I want to interject something. I had the pleasure of meeting, and he's since passed away, but he was a NASA scientist, and along with 8 other NASA scientists, when the first push of global warming was introduced, and these very brave men stepped forward and said, "You're all full of crap. That's not true." And Dr. John Casey, and he studied the sun, solar flares and their impact on everything on the planet, and that was his line of research and study. And he wrote a book prior to his passing, probably. I'm sure you can still get it and find it on Amazon, and it's called Dark Winter. And he cautioned all of these people, and that's why they fired them all the very next day. He cautioned them all. He goes, "You fools are going to destroy the ability to grow food, because the sun is actually going into a 10 to 20 year dormant cycle and phase. And in that, the earth is actually going to cool." And then he laid out the case, and we were having dinner after we had all given speeches on the global science and global warming, because I was from the energy sector. I covered how they devised this plan, and they pushed this lie to control the hydrocarbon. And it was always about they wanted the lie to redistribute the wealth of the United States of America, the wealthiest nation on the planet, to redistribute our wealth under this global tyranny of global warming, climate change. And that's all that's proven. So now the science never held up. The science did not believe it. They actually said, if you do this, you're going to destroy humanity's ability. You need to be moving food crops down further south toward the equator at this time. And John was very keen on the magnetic shift and what was happening with the globe in the shift of polarity, because it also has relationship to the sun. And so their science was all smoke and mirrors, and it was never about anything but exactly what we're telling you they're doing with injection, what they're putting in the food supply, what they're releasing into the atmosphere. Everything that they're doing is about a control mechanism of humanity, and under their great reset of humanity and all of the wealth of humanity not existing in any currency anymore, and having a social currency to where you either do what we say or you don't. You can't purchase, you can't sell. And where's that also spoken of? It's biblical. Yeah. So it's all based on a lie.
So here's another thing that I've observed. Why would this global group want us off of petroleum? Well, who controls the flow of petroleum? Who distributes the petroleum globally? Well, it's not the government, right? No. But who distributes electricity?
Yeah. Well, and that right there, then you go and then you get back into what Tesla already knew, and then you have to look at who Tesla, at Westing, all of the folks that were in the Edison And all of these brilliant minds, in order to accomplish anything that they wanted to accomplish, they all had to go sit down and kiss the ring of J.P. Morgan. And who controlled J.P. Morgan?
Yep.
J.P. Morgan was controlled by Mr. Rothschild and the Rothschild family, the European bankers. They're the same people that are doing everything you see. Who's the money behind CERN? Where did these people gather the funds and collect the money to carry out this massive attempt to find the dark matter particles that they do not know? They hope to find new dark matter particle that they can identify, and then they can back up with quantum physics and science. Good for them. But in that, who funded this? Always look at funding, because if you follow the money to every single thing in the control mechanism over humanity, the depopulation that was discussed on the Georgia Guidestones, everything that we see tracks back to the very same group. You know, when you see in the United States is not a flag nation supporting CERN. Oh, well, wait a while. We do have Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the wealthiest billionaires in America are funding CERN. And they all have a portion because they want the science. They want this infinite knowledge. And think about what it is, because we opened up with the Big Bang and what it was, the Big Bang. Well, all right, the creation of the entire universe through the spoken word of God, if you're a godly person, or infinite, and if you're not, and you're a scientist, and you say, well, it was a particle of infinite energy. Oh my gosh. So we created the universe from a single particle of infinite energy, in light to dark, because they would tell you that everything was in the dark, that there was no light. But then we know as Christians that every time and look and study the Word of God in the Bible, and you'll become very clear that every presence of an angel, you know, going down to the Blessed Virgin, Moses and the burning bush, and we have all these ties to the infinite energy and light that existed, that was God, and said, hey, Noah, you better build this ark, Pop, because I'm fixing to flood the entire planet. You know, so we're in one of those times, you know, and here's the thing. You've got a panel of guys here, Mike, and a group of listeners, and we all have a lot of the very same exact concerns. Who's doing this? Why are they doing it? What's it about? And it's about control of humanity. And they would love, and when you listen to the big players, Prince Philip, Mr. Rothschild, the Rockefeller, all these folks, Bill Gates, that openly discuss, and I listed one time in a blog 30 exact quotes from these people saying that we needed to depopulate the planet by 95%. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, was the Georgia Guidestone right? And how did they know that? To chisel that into granite and say, we want to take the Earth's population, we will, down to 500,000 humans.
500 million.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm sure I'm one of them. I think they like me. I don't know about you guys, because I think you guys are all negative. I think they're gonna want my positive energy.
That's awesome, gentlemen. We're getting to that time where we're gonna wrap it up with final thought. That's funny, John. I'm sure I'm gonna be the first one they want to cancel out. That's for sure. I'm gonna go with Stephen H first for his final thought, because he had something that he wanted to say there, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. So go ahead, Stephen, and then I'll go to John.
Well, I mean, there's not enough time to go into this, but I mean, other than they do want to take us down to 500 million. Same old stories before. Going to make it real easy for you. They want to get rid of the population because they want to release new technologies And if you ever look in the past, every time new technologies of a major significance was released, the population jumped up. And so they want to get rid of us, or most of us, so that they can release the new technologies that they have, and to benefit them. And they don't need it with a large population with this new technologies. We would be uncontrollable. So they got to get it down to a point to where they can always keep their foot on your neck and keep you under control.
Absolutely. John Estabrooks, your final thought?
Well, and I agree with Stephen. And in that control, when you think about it, who are the people that they will select to stay around? And it's the guys that know the technology and can push the buttons for them. But the bottom line, and I always end everything that we do, because I do believe in the infinite power that is the purest energy, our God creator, that God wins this. And there's a reason that each time CERN has been plugged in and it goes, well, okay, the last time the magnets melted, they overheated. Well, now they're running them at twice the power level. They've tightened up the particle size. Boy, they are doing great things. But if they ever approach the God light, the infinite power of God, guess who will switch it off? Trust in that.
All right, here's my final thought. The reason why I wanted to talk about CERN tonight is because it's in the news and a lot of things going around CERN, and I wanted people to kind of maybe understand a little bit what it is, what it's capable of doing, who's kind of designed it, and the Star Wars effect of it, which I really enjoyed. Time travel, going through different dimensions. It's so fascinating, man. It really captures your attention, and I wanted to share that with you guys tonight. I hope you guys learned something. Thank you, Stephen H. and John H. and John Estabrooks, for coming on with me tonight and talking about this topic. Just a lot of great information. I seen a lot of great comments in chat. War Machine putting out a lot of good stuff. And it's just, our world is going to change. Our world is going to change, and I believe it's going to change for the better. And no matter what, God has all of this, and I truly believe that. So that's my final thought for tonight. And I want to do some quick shout outs to everybody who bought coffees tonight, because there was a ton out of them, and I just appreciate it so much. Tennessee Ridge Runner, thanks for the coffee. His comment is, keep going strong, brother. God has this. Here's another one. I don't know who bought it, but their comment is, God bless you all. So thank you for those coffees. Let's see who sent this one. Mary Lou. She said, I loved the great show last night. I am back tonight. Keep putting out truth. Love. Thank you for that coffee. Phil and Tammy, thank you for the coffee. Said, excited for the show tonight. Thanks for all that you do. Someone bought a coffee. I'm pretty sure I know who this one is. It says, cheers, Noah, LW, Phyllis, April, Tracy Q, B Cats, War Machine, Carlene, Denise G, and Liz Grizz. Thank you. Thank you for the coffees. Appreciate it. Holy, they just keep coming in. Oops, 11 names. My bad. Here is a coffee to cover it. Oh, Tammy. And here's another one. No comment, but thank you for the coffees. There's somebody there that bought 5 coffees, so I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for all the donations tonight. I really appreciate it. And we love doing these special editions. You never know what might happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday, and a lot of things going on. I know we're paying attention to it. Jeff B. And Travis, thank you so much for streaming us on TikTok tonight. That's awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. So keep your ears open and your eyes peeled wide open, because there's so much being revealed on a daily basis. It's truly hard to keep up with everything. So Steven, you're the only one left. John fell out. So appreciate you joining me tonight, Steven. You really brought a lot of great information.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right, everybody. We'll see you again on the next one. God bless and have a great evening.
Hoping for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. Can you tell me the secret of how you can take it or leave it? How you can blend in with the crowd? I'm so scared, so damn afraid to look. I'm so sick of talking. I'm wearing the words out, words out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. When it feels like everyone's out to get me, I see the river on the bank.